After every loss this season, the Louisville football team has answered with a victory. That trend continued after the Cardinals lost to Boston College last week. They answered with a victory over Virginia 34-17 on Saturday afternoon in Charlottesville. We're going to break down the result and more on today's episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Stay tuned.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Locked On the Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. I serve as a credentialed media member for Cardinal Sports Zone. I also do some PA announcing work for the university in various sports. I want to take this time, as always, to say thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the Locked On the Louisville podcast is free on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Today's episode will be breaking down the Louisville Cardinals' victory over the Virginia Cavaliers on Saturday afternoon. I'm going to explain why the 34-17 victory for Scott Satterfield's team does not change anything moving forward. We will then transition into talking about how Brock Domann, in his first career start, got the job done in Charlottesville. And then finally, we're going to break the performance down a little bit more. I'll have to give props to the Cardinals in the trenches. We're going to talk about some areas of improvement and what exactly went right for the team in that game on Saturday. So we'll begin by addressing the big picture take on things. I said last Friday in the episode of this show that, hey, look, Virginia was a must-win game for the Louisville Cardinals if they wanted to keep their bowl hopes alive. Now, granted, they got it done. They did so for the first time since 2017. It's the second victory for the Cardinals since joining the ACC, meaning second victory in Charlottesville, I should clarify. But this was a game that Louisville needed to win and by all means should have won. Now, granted, things were a little bit more questionable with Brock Domann making his first career start, but they got the job done against a Virginia team that, look, really hasn't been all that great this season. They're 2-4 right now, 0-3 in the conference. Their two victories on the season come to Richmond and Old Dominion. You know, they're 0-3 in the conference. They've lost at Syracuse, at Duke, lost by 21 to Duke, lost by 21 at Illinois. So, needless to say, even though Virginia kind of gave the Cardinals a run for their money, well, they did give the Cardinals a run for their money at Cardinal Stadium last year because they came back down 17 to win that game. You know, they lost their head coach, lost their offensive coordinator, lost some pieces on offense, lost some pieces on defense, and to look, Louisville was the better team, the more talented team coming into this matchup. Now, granted, you still have to go out and win the game, but big picture talking now, it doesn't change anything. Nowhere am I saying, however, that the team should not celebrate this victory or past tense shouldn't have celebrated this victory. I'm a firm believer that a win is a win is a win, and you got the job done. You did what you needed to do, so why not celebrate that? You know, it's your first conference win. You got a win on the road. So at the end of the day, I'm okay with the celebrating. Now, I saw some people tweeting out yesterday that it was kind of like almost like implying that it was embarrassing because of the start that the Cardinals had. And look, I get that. I understand that the start hasn't necessarily been ideal. The Cardinals have lost 2 games against teams, frankly, they should have won in Florida State and Boston College. Look, I get that. But the players also get that. You know, these guys are playing the games, and I'm never going to, I'm never going to fault players for celebrating because at the end of the day, they're playing these games. And, you know, you win a game, you should be celebrating. And they won it convincingly. They won by 17 points on the road in conference play. I mean, celebrate by all means. But, you know, 2 things can be true at one time. You can have a kind of a subpar start, but, you know, you got to win against Virginia. You can celebrate that. Now, granted, it wasn't necessarily the greatest victory. I mean, Virginia wasn't the best opponent, probably one of the worst, if not the worst team in the ACC, kind of contending with Virginia Tech for that spot. But I will say this, if you want to draw some parallels to 2018, which a lot of people have kind of done so far, and I get it because at the end of the day, look, it is what it is. It's a situation to where you win 2 games early on and then you start to lose against teams you feel like you're better than, but there's a big difference between this year's team and 2018. That 2018 team kind of just, for lack of better terms, gave up. Now, there was a lot of factors that went into that as well, but I think that this game against Virginia kind of solidified the notion that these guys aren't just going to lay down and throw the season away. They're going to try to do what they can to dig themselves out of the hole that the first half of the season has brought upon, and look to try to fight back. So I commend them for that. I think that at the end of the day, you can look at this from the outside looking in and say, oh, well, why are you celebrating a win against a team that you're better than? I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that deep. Celebrating a win regardless. Now, granted, you can, I don't put it this way. I don't mind people that say that, oh, wow, have a little bit of awareness of the situation you're in, because now you're 3-3. You should technically probably be 4-2, 5-1. It is what it is. I'm planning to move forward. I can understand that viewpoint, and it is what it is. I mean, I respect it, but I think I'm in the boat of let the players celebrate, and I think a lot of people are kind of in that same boat as well. But it is what it is, because I think we all agree that the first half of the season wasn't the greatest, and that's why this win changes nothing. All it does is continue to, it's kind of like survive and advance college basketball, right? Survive and advance. It's a little different because, you lose one game now and, your season's not over, maybe not at this point, but, it's all about obtaining bowl eligibility, right? Getting to 6 wins. And the reason why this game really doesn't change that at all it does is kind of extend the journey, kind of move you on to the next week, move you into the bye week, to the back half of the schedule. Because currently speaking, with James Madison's inclusion in the rankings, 5 of the final 6 opponents that Louisville is slated to face at this current point in time, 5 of those teams are ranked. The one that's not is Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh was ranked at the beginning of the season. They've got a solid defense. They just had a running back that rushed for nearly 300, and I think it was 360 or 36 carries for 320 yards, or 32 carries for 360, one of the two. But 6 touchdowns. Now, granted, they played a Virginia Tech team that, frankly, is not good. But Pittsburgh is still going to be a tough team to play at Cardinal Stadium on the 22nd, I think that is, following the bye week. So hopefully the team is able to get healthy. You get Malik Cunningham healthy. He has another week to rest. But granted, the back half of the schedule is brutal. You look at the rest of the schedule for the Cardinals. It's not just the fact that the teams are ranked. I mentioned last week that 4 of the 6 teams are ranked inside. I'm sorry, I take that all the way back, because I forgot that Kentucky lost Saturday. So 4 of the teams were in the top 15. Maybe with Will Levis, Kentucky stays in the top 15. They may beat South Carolina, but 3 are in the top 15, and then you have Kentucky and James Madison also in the top 25. And if you thought that James Madison was going to be a cakewalk, think again. I have seen people make the argument that Pittsburgh may be an easier game than James Madison. And look, I don't think I disagree. I need to do a little bit more research, admittedly. I'll admit I'm a little bit ignorant when it comes to how good Pittsburgh and how good James Madison are, respectively. I mean, I've watched Pittsburgh a couple of times this season. To begin the season, I watched them play against Tennessee, and then this past week as well against Virginia Tech, I caught some of that game. But I think that it's a tough end of the schedule. There's not, even though the FPI has Louisville winning a couple of these games and being favored in others, I think that it's I think that it goes without saying that there's not one game on the schedule you can look at right now and say that's a win for sure, because I think it's going to be a matter of Louisville taking it week by week and just trying to get the wins where you can get them. So, a win against a team in Virginia that you were supposed to beat, look, it's nice because you handle business. You handle business on the road in a place historically that you haven't done all that well in. You won by double digits. It just kind of is what it is. But I will say that because of the slow start that you had, it put you in a situation where this was a game that you pretty much had to win. Barring a complete 180 after the bye week and Louisville turning it around. But through the first 6 weeks, I'm not sure that turnaround is there. I mean, it's possible. I mean, the team has the talent, but there's going to have to be some major coaching adjustments to get to that point. So I think at the end of the day, right now, you're kind of like, okay, well, we'll see. But good win. Players should celebrate that win. I mean, at the end of the day, they're the guys going out there and playing pretty hard and getting to the point to where they're putting themselves in the best position to win and increase their confidence and things of that nature. But hey, look, at the end of the day, it was against the team that very clearly put you definitely had to take care of business against. So I kind of want to take a little bit of a deeper look into the game. Obviously, the main storyline is that in his first career start, Brock Domann handled business and got the job done. We're going to talk about his performance more in depth here in a second after we talk about our friends over at Simply Safe. The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen Simply Safe Home Security to protect their homes. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At Simply Safe, your safety is the only thing that matters. I know that because I use Simply Safe in my own home. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents and always having your back. Here's why I love it. I think that the motion sensors with opening doors and things of that nature is very, very cool. It's something that it's convenient at all things, and it keeps you safe as well. With 24/7 professional monitoring, Simply Safe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home or can't be reached. It blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and outside your home, smarter ways to detect motion that only alert you, when a threat is real. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/lockedoncollege. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month for free. Once again, let's visit simplysafe.com/lockedoncollege to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe. So moving right on along, Brock Domann, his first career start for the Louisville Cardinals, a victory against the Virginia Cavaliers. Admittedly, didn't necessarily start out all that well. Doman struggled when you look at this game in particular and, how it kind of came about. Very early on, the first quarter was, needless to say, just extremely, extremely tough. The first possession was a 3-and-out, followed by the first pass play being an interception. Another 3-and-out for the Cardinals, followed by yet another punt. The Cardinals finally got a field goal. It was a 40 or 50-yard touchdown run by Brock Domann in the second quarter on a broken down play, a handoff that was going to go to Jawar Jordan. He was immediately going to get tackled. Doman took the ball out of the hands of Jordan and simply scampered to the end zone. Didn't necessarily have much opposition, but it seemed like that got Doman going. Doman then looked pretty decent in the passing game. Sure, he had a couple of instances to where, he overthrew some guys, threw behind some receivers, so on and so forth. But he ended up finishing the afternoon 17 of 30, 275 yards, 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions, had 9 carries for 71 yards and a touchdown as well. The passing game, I heard some people on social media, or I saw some people, I didn't hear them on social media. I saw some people on social media talk about how different the passing game looked. Now, obviously, that's true because Malik Cunningham being more of a running quarterback, the offense was probably designed more along the RPO situations and more design runs for the quarterback when Malik Cunningham is playing. But it seemed like Scott Satterfield opened up, the passing section of the offense with Brock Domann under quarterback in terms of just kind of the share between both rushing and passing. 46 rushes, and then 30 passes attempted. So it seems like there was a little bit more of an honest differentiation between passing and rushing. It seems like there's a little bit more rushing when Malik Cunningham is involved, and obviously that's because Malik is one of, if not the best, dual threat quarterbacks in the conference, and definitely one in the country as well. Doman spread the ball around. I like the fact that he got Marshawn Ford involved. 4 for 93 and a touchdown for the Louisville tight end. Tyler Hudson had a big day, 7 for 101. Amari Huggins-Bruce, 4 for 53. Dwayne Martin had 1 for 22. Maurice Turner with the 1 for 6. So 5 different receivers with a catch. I don't necessarily think that the passing attack looked, should I say, better, because I think that Malik Cunningham, there's been certain points of this season where the passing attack has looked solid. I think that Brock Domann came in and just did his job, did what he needed to do. I also think that Virginia's defense is one of the worst that the Cardinals have played this season, and that's no disrespect to Brock, but I think that we have to look at this from an unbiased point of view and realize that Brock did get the job done. And that's what matters, because last week against Boston College, the Cardinals did not get the job done, but they got the job done against an inferior team like Virginia. It is what it is, but you got the job done, and that's what should be focused on here. But if we're talking about, success of the offense, even success of the defense, you have to factor in that Virginia is not a good team right now. So that just kind of is what it is. I really do think that this was a game to where, I was impressed by the way that Doman bounced back. Looked like it was going to be a long, long day with the Cardinals going down 10-0. But Doman and company, they brought the team back. Now, obviously, we're going to give some flowers to some of the guys in the running back room. But I think it is what it is. Brock Domann, according to Kelly Dickey, who is a stats guru for Louisville, he said Brock Domann is only the third quarterback in Louisville history to account for 300 yards of total offense in his starting quarterback debut. The only other quarterbacks for that was Mike Watkins and Chris Redmond. So I think that Doman did exactly what he needed to do. Most passing yards by a Louisville player making his first quarterback start. Doman is number 5 behind Redmond, Watkins, Eric Watts, and Kyle Bolin. Just a solid, really just a solid performance. I don't know why I got tongue twisted there, not really understand what I was about to say. And I apologize if you can hear the dogs barking upstairs. They're going absolutely wild for, I guess, Lamar Jackson's playing football tonight. So, cheering on the former Louisville Cardinals star for the now playing with the Baltimore Ravens. But I think it is what it is. I commend Brock Domann on his performance. He got the job done. The question going into this game was, can Louisville win this game without Malik Cunningham? Brock Domann said, well, of course you can. Look, we're going to do it. And they did just that. They came out victorious against Boston College, against Virginia. And we're going to kind of break that performance down a little bit more here in just a second after we talk about our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for football betting info this season. Find all of the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. So like I said, this game was all about handling business, and I think that that's the overall theme for this one is Louisville doing what needed to be done and getting the job done overall. Offensively speaking, obviously it was a tough first quarter, I should say. I think 19 total yards in the first quarter, ended up with 473 total yards of offense, converting 8 of 15 third down conversions. Like I said, Brock Domann was solid as a passer. Travion Cooley had a couple of big runs, 18 carries, 77 yards, and a touchdown. Jawar Jordan had 11 for 29 and a touchdown. And then Maurice Turner, with the absence of Tyon Evans and Jalen Mitchell, he had 7 for 23. So Louisville was able to do what they needed to do on the ground, 46 carries for 198 yards. If it wasn't for the victory formation at the end, they would have at least eclipsed the 200-yard threshold. But the Cardinals were very balanced on offense. I thought that it was an overall balanced performance as well. And the big stat for me is that the team did not allow one single tackle for loss. That's the first time since 2003 that the Louisville Cardinals have not allowed a tackle for loss to their opponent. So, I mean, obviously spanning almost 2 decades, that's a big-time statistic. Louisville's offensive line continuing to do what they need to do, setting the tone, just overall creating holes for the running backs and, giving the quarterbacks their protection that they need, and giving them time to go through their reads and go through their progressions and make the right decisions. And I think that that's a big part of why Brock Doman was also able to find some success in this game, because he had time to throw the football. He had time to go through his reads, to slow the game down and internalize the coverage and just be able to make his reads and go through his progressions. And I think that that was a big key for ensuring that he stayed successful. And like I said, I thought that the rushing attack needed to be established in this one for Louisville to come out successful, and they topped almost 200 yards, and a lot of that came from a Brock Doman busted down play coverage. But hey, 50 yards on the ground, it's 50 yards on the ground, and that definitely shifted the momentum. I think that there's not much you can really take from this performance offensively, other than that you handle business against a defense that has been struggling. You look solid throwing the football, which is obviously beneficial if you're talking about Brock Doman moving forward. Running the ball, you had another performance to where you were solid rushing in your rushing attack, and that's something that you should be able to focus on there. And then, hey, look, at the other end, or at the not the other end, but in another light, the Louisville offensive line is doing what you thought they would do all season long, and they've done that for the past handful of weeks consecutively, and that's create protection for their quarterbacks, create gaps for their ball carriers, and just things of that nature. Defensively speaking, hey, it was a game to where Virginia, not necessarily the best rushing attack out there. When you look at what they do statistically, they average about 4 yards per carry. Let's see, team-wise, they're averaging about gotta find that real quick. They're averaging about 129.7 yards per game on the ground. Obviously, with a different offensive coordinator, with their offensive coordinator going to Syracuse, this is a more balanced Virginia attack. Paris Jones, Brennan Armstrong. You also have Xavier Brown and Mike Hollins. All 4 of those players have rushed for over 100 yards this season. In the game against Louisville, however, the Virginia Cavaliers recorded a whopping 6 rushing yards. 4 carries for 7 yards for Xavier Brown, 6 for 6 for Paris Jones, 1 for 0 for Mike Hollins, 14 carries for -7 yards, obviously factoring in the sack numbers there. Keith Winnie, he had a statistic tweeted out that Louisville is number 1 in sack yardage to the point this season, and they are number 5 in the country in sacks. So the front 7 for Louisville, pretty solid, not only in this game, but almost all season long. Last year, the storyline was, well, can this Louisville team get pressure on the opposing quarterbacks? They've done that this year. They're one of the teams in the nation that get the most pressure on the opposing quarterbacks, on the opposing ball carriers. I think they had maybe 6 tackles for loss or something like that. 8 tackles for loss to go along with 6 sacks. That's a huge number there for the Louisville defense. Mason Rieger had a big day. Had the sack on 4th down when Virginia tried to go for it. Des Tell had 1, Ashton Gelati 1.5, Monty had 1, Momo Sanogo had a half of a sack. Jared Dawson also had a sack to go along with that. And then, that's tackles for loss. Mason Rieger had a sack, Monty Montgomery with 1, Ashton Gelati with 1, Des Tell with 1, Yasir Abdullah with 1, and then a handful of players had tackles for losses. So the front 7 has been pretty solid. The secondary still kind of struggling here and there. They made some impact plays. MJ Griffin had a big interception. You had some more big-time plays, some big-time pass deflections as well, but Brennan Armstrong, 24 of 34, 313 yards, 2 interceptions, and a touchdown. So Virginia had the 40-yard touchdown on third down in the first quarter, but since then, the Louisville secondary bent but did not break. They only allowed one more score after that. Louisville defense, it wasn't the best performance that they've turned in, but certainly not the worst either. So for the Louisville defense, like I said, it's going to be a matter of continuing to get better in the secondary, putting the secondary players in the best position to succeed in terms of coaching and scheme and things of that nature. But overall, Louisville Cardinals got it done. They got the job done. They beat the Virginia Cavaliers 34-17. Brock Doman in Oktoberfest, or should I say Brocktoberfest? Sorry, don't clown me for that. But hey, look, Louisville got the job done. Tomorrow we're going to be giving grades out for the Louisville squad position-wise through the first 6 games. So thanks again for making Locked On Louisville your first listen of the day. Also, at this point, check out Locked On ACC, hosted by Candace Cooper. No better way to get your conference news than that podcast, hosted 5 days a week. So that's going to wrap up this Monday edition of the show, everyone. Have a great day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.